Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I am here with Jason.
Hey, everyone.
What's up, my dude?
Oh, just hanging in there, working a lot.
Me too.
Dealing with fallout from the storm a few weeks ago.
Yes, your house is devastated.
Yes, it's Swiss cheese.
But the basement is fine, and that's all that really matters.
Yes, the fortified basement stands.
The Genre Exposure HQ still lives.
It is impervious. It will fall to nothing. But, I'm ready to podcast, man. Ready to do it.
Awesome. I'm excited. So we have finished our cool block about science fiction. We've gone on this big sojourn through different styles.
Yes, to the stars.
And now we're to our listener episode, and we happened to notice we had a few that were also science fiction. So it seemed like a good time to pull one of those.
Just throw one in there.
Just to round this off a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so today we are going to be talking about Open Your Eyes from 1997, suggested to us by the one and the only Urban Groucho. Mm-hmm. We love you, man.
He of impeccable taste.
Yes, you have never steered us wrong, so it was sci-fi. It seemed like a safe bet.
Yeah.
And this also, just for reference, to get it out there, there is an American remake of this, Vanilla Sky. I'm certain we will get into a little bit about that in the course of talking about it.
I thought about watching it or trying to watch it. I didn't.
I thought about it too because I was like, wouldn't it be good to have seen both to compare them and contrast them? Mm-hmm. And then I looked at that poster and the fucking Tom Cruise plastered right on there, and I was just like, no, I can't.
But I do remember some of when I tried to watch it back when it first came out, so I can remark a little bit.
Well, I did read a pretty detailed breakdown of the plot because that was my real question: is what did they?
Yeah, it's pretty close
change?
For the most part.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay.
Before all of that, we're going to do our usual stuff. Talk about what we've been watching lately.
Yeah.
Don't quite have a shout out this time. Been pretty busy myself with work, but I did want to talk about one thing up at the top.
Uh-huh.
So last time we talked about the revival of Return of the Living Dead. Mm-hmm. Yep. Still raw from that. And that rawness only got worse because the trailer dropped for The Exorcist. Is it Believer?
Yes.
Believer, yes. The first of a new trilogy from Blumhouse, directed by the one, the only David Gordon Green.
Why do they have to come out of the gate saying it's a trilogy? Why can't they just make the first movie and if people give a shit, make more?
Do you remember when studios saw how stuff went first before they
barely
put down money on everything?
I think it was back when they were still actually showing movies on film, so it was a while back.
So now I must be obligated to ask you, my friend. We both watched the trailer.
We did.
How do you feel?
I think it looks like a piece of shit.
Yeah, I thought it looked like garbage.
I mean, it is a trailer, and perhaps it is not indicative of the film. Mm-hmm. But Chris McNeil, what is she, an exorcist now? Why would she be an exorcist? Does Reagan show up at some point? I mean, did they ask Linda Blair?
They're not going to get Linda Blair back.
Why not? I'm sure she would do it.
Maybe if they had a good script.
But it looks bad. Mm-hmm. It looks bad. One of the things that really irritated me, I think I mentioned this to you and Michael, was the fact that there's a scene where she's walking in the church and she starts talking to the possessed girl, and of course she gets the demonic voice thing. But it's just pitch shifting. It's all just done digitally.
Right.
It's not like Mercedes McCambridge doing a real organic performance.
That was what made that so haunting in the original.
Yes. It was so effective. And this just sounded like a fucking animatronic Halloween decoration, Well,
it was just every other modern exorcism-based movie.
Every other possessed movie, yep.
Because that was the Pope's Exorcist. I noticed that, too, with the voice shifting. But it was that movie did have some compelling parts to it to make it kind of fun. But
I can't comment.
Whatever. But this is The Exorcist, man. This is if you tell me to name some of the greatest horror films of all time, this one has to be on there.
Top 3, easy.
Yeah.
At least it doesn't look like it's a straight up remake. At least it looks like a sequel of sorts. That's a little comforting, but still, it's But I mean, let's be honest. Outside of Exorcist 3, none of the other Exorcist projects have been any good.
Yeah. I have a little bit of love for Dominion, but it's got a lot of problems. And then they knew it had a lot of problems.
Problems.
That's why someone came in and said, fuck it, throw out all the slow parts and put in wacky shit and make the beginning.
Let's get Rennie Harlan to make it.
So here's what I want to say about it. This is my little 2 cents.
Uh-huh.
And I get it. We've never made a movie. We've never sold a script. Blah, blah, blah. All that caveat. But we're people. We have opinions, and we can share them. And I share mine now.
Yes.
The fact that Chris as an exorcist is like really weird and just seems like super left field. Mm-hmm. That just seems like a ham-fisted way to keep her in the plot.
Yeah.
There's a line that she delivers where she's talking about like, oh, every culture, every religion has their own exorcism rites, and they're each different, and and we're going to need all of them.
We gotta be
and
inclusive.
That's like, that's so fucking stupid, dude. Like, it doesn't matter which type of thing you're doing for the exorcist, but like, pick one and then do that, and then that's what it is.
Well, the whole exorcism rite is a Catholic rite.
Right.
I mean...
but I think like there was it Deliver Us from Evil, that horror film, that it ended at a big exorcism, and it was a rabbi that did like a sort of like Jewish rooted type of exorcism. That was interesting and cool. But I think like Michael said this when we were talking to him in our little like chat for the podcast that we planned stuff out in, but right, the whole thing about an exorcism is this matter of like, you know, faith and belief and the struggle of a person's will. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you say like, oh, we're just going to use like all the exorcism arts from every style that exists out there, that kind of like cheapens it a little bit in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the fact that they're being like, oh, it's back again, and Chris realizes that it's the one that's back, and it's like,
I wonder if they're going to have like an atheist exorcism.
I don't know.
I don't believe in you, demon. You don't exist.
You shall vanish now.
They don't want to offend anyone. They got to include everybody.
They need the chaos magic exorcism where it's like a dude shows up with like a carton of raw milk and starts drinking it, and it's just like rotted, and it's, because I drink this, you shall vanish. Just weirdness.
Need the guy from a dark song in there.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is like, there's something about the original Exorcist and the way that story is and it's executed. It's like to me it's meaningful because it's really about, you know, Karras more than it is about Reagan, and it's about his struggle with his faith and his life and where he is at that point. And that all culminates with him deciding to, like, you know, take the demon into himself and then sacrifice himself to save Reagan, because that is the only option that he sees that's still available.
Right.
Because he realizes that they're not, you know, I guess, mentally, spiritually strong enough to get the job done.
Right.
And they did this with the Exorcist TV show, too, where it's like they make a change in the plot to, like, keep... I guess we'll just say Pazuzu. They'll probably throw that name around a ton,
I'm sure.
even though they're very subtle with it in the original. But it's like... They want to keep that as the thing, but then like that cheapens Karras' sacrifice and everything he did.
Right.
And I don't know. It never sits right with me. So, I mean, you know, if you listen to the show regularly, we hated all of the Halloween sequels that they did. So I won't be catching this in theaters, but maybe it's one of those we all get together and stream it and
my expectations
have
are
some
like
drinks
below
and
zero. Yeah, for sure.
So
but it's like The Exorcist is such a classic good movie. It's one of those things you just never ever needed a sequel to. It's got the perfect ending, the original ending, not the director's cut that came out later on.
And to me, if you were gonna try it now, like modern times, I feel like it should have gone to like the A24 school of filmmaking.
Right.
I think somewhere in that style between several of their different films, you could find a modern take for The Exorcist that would work.
Sure, but it's also just, I don't know, maybe recent failures of franchise films may be an indicator that people are getting sick of this shit. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for a horror film to not make money. As long as they didn't spend $100 million on this, it's going to make money. You know?
I don't know. For me, The Exorcist, like, I got to have a little like gravitas to it.
Sure.
It's not just like a funhouse thrill ride,
right?
Type of thing.
I think this is what that's going to be. It looks more like a Conjuring film than it does an Exorcist film. Whatever. Okay.
And more on those kinds of movies in a bit. So what have you been watching?
Interesting. All right. Well, I went to go see Barbie.
All right.
Yes.
Haven't had a chance yet, but we're going soon.
I like it. I recommend it.
Did it make you go film yourself for an hour while you burned Barbie dolls and complained about it like Ben Shapiro?
Dude, people need to get the fuck over themselves. They really do. The Barbie movie is not a threat to you or your way of life or society.
Woohoo!
It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. Ryan Gosling steals it, of course. He has this musical number that's just fucking awesome. But Margot Robbie is really good too. And she's an actress I'm kind of iffy on. I think it's more the project she chooses. Like Suicide Squad, fuck that. I could care less about that movie.
She's not the problem in those movies. But...
Right. But that's what everyone identifies her with. You know, I don't know. I got so sick of seeing girls dressing up as fucking Harley Quinn. Those 3 Halloweens after those movies came out. Anyway, I digress. No, Barbie is good. It's fun. It's smart. It's not. It's not perfect. It's not the best thing ever, but it's a nice take. Like if you're going to do a movie based on a toy like Barbie,
toy property with really no plot. I mean, I know there's like lore to it, but
this is the way to do it. And there's really fun callbacks to like some of the weirder Barbie toys and things like that.
Well, let me ask you, because Tiffany's desperate to know about this. Do they feature any of her like side people? Like, what, she had like a kid sister?
Oh yeah, like Skipper, Midge.
Do they mention those?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's some deep cut ones too I didn't know about. I like toy history. I'm not like a Barbie aficionado, but you know, I know a little bit about it. My sister had Barbies, you know, whatever. Did I play with them sometimes? Maybe.
Why not? Toy's a toy, dude.
That's right. But yeah, there's some cool deep cuts in there.
Nice.
I recommend it. How about you, man? What have you been watching?
I got 2 I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. Okay, I need to talk about something else real quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please. Please do.
This whole past week, I've been trying to get time to watch a horror film or something. Mm-hmm. And it was storming the other night. I'm like, perfect. It's the perfect time to find a horror film. So I go to Amazon Prime. The first thing that comes up is the brand new Takeshi's Castle that they're playing on Amazon Prime. So I'm like, fuck it. I got to watch this. So all week long, Karen and I have been like just obsessed with Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah, I noticed like every time I talk to you, you're like, well, I'm like, hey man, what are you doing? Like, oh, we're watching some Takeshi's Castle. It's like, wow, okay.
It's so great. It's like comfort food. I didn't watch the original. I watched the old MXC show that came out, which was the American redub of Takeshi's Castle.
The interesting thing is that the original is like fucking hilarious already.
Right.
And then
this is hilarious.
MXC is like equally as funny, but just in a different way.
In a different way, right. But no, if you just want some good pure fun, especially if you like, you know, Japanese culture and TV shows and whatever, you got to check it out. It's a great time.
Hey, Amazon Prime, easy to get at.
Yep. Okay.
Nice.
Please proceed.
So, while everyone else was rushing out to the theater to check out the Barbenheimer, as they say, I was slipping into a different theater to go see the 5th entry in the Insidious franchise, Insidious: The Red Door.
Oh, yes.
I love the Insidious franchise. That's one of my, like, I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but I guess, like, everyone thinks it's like a dumb, big franchise horror series that's not really worth anything.
So it's Friday 13th, but I love it unabashedly.
I deeply love the Insidious films. And of course I do, because it started with James Wan and Lee Winnell, so duh. This newest one, it brings us full circle, because there was this whole story that started in the first 2 films about the Lambert family. And then they spent 3 and 4 kind of doing prequels that talked a little bit more about Elise, Lin Shaye's character, who was like the...
Because Lin Shaye's awesome.
She's awesome, and she deserves to be a horror lead for once. So that was cool. But now this one finally brings us kind of full circle and closes that story on the Lambert family, because even the second film sort of had some little unresolved threads hanging there.
All right. I haven't seen Beyond the first one.
I'll try to avoid some spoilers if I can, but Insidious: The Red Door, it was the debut directing of Patrick Wilson.
Who I also really like.
Who also plays the lead, Josh Lambert, the head of the family. It was interesting because there was a lot of emotional depth and a lot of like good family drama to the plot. Because it kind of at times skips us to when the kids would be like getting into college age. And the second film sort of ended with them going through some like hypnotherapy to forget their memories of everything that happened in the first 2 films, because the kids were like little kids and it would be traumatic. And sort of the crux, if you don't know any of the Insidious films, is that Patrick Wilson's character and then his sons, they have this ability to very naturally, very easily astrally project. And there's this whole idea of this realm called the Further. That's this realm, this astral realm you can enter where spirits reside, and spirits that don't pass on kind of linger there. It can become malicious and evil, and
they get all pissy.
And that's sort of the crux of the whole franchise. But so yeah, at the end of the second film, they made them all forget everything just to tie up loose ends, because they never really knew how to like stop it for good.
Okay.
Because like entities would seek them out because they're sensitive.
Sure.
So this time skips us to when they're older, and it's kind of fucked up their whole life. Like their entire family dynamic has fallen apart. The wife has separated from Patrick Wilson's character. He like can't get his shit together at all now. He always feels like he's like hazy. He's in a cloud. He's become estranged from his sons. and they kind of are on like really rocky terms. And so kind of like the core of the film is really like that and like working out their issues and their problems. But that's all rooted in the supernatural side of things, which is that they forgot they have this gift. And that gift is both like a blessing and a curse.
Right. Okay.
They really like, I think you're about an hour into the film before they actually go into the further. And like there's some little jump scares up to that point. But they really spent time like building the characters and the relationships and everything up. And I kind of got to give Patrick Wilson props on some of his decisions as far as the plot. Because like there's this great scene where he takes his son, Dalton. That's like the lead one from the first film that is the one who's in the coma that the demons try to possess.
Okay.
He's taking him to college, and they're trying to like patch up their relationship, and it goes bad, and they get into this like screaming match, and he basically just like cusses his son out, and basically like treats him like shit, and then in the moment he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said any of that.
Right.
And he tries to like apologize, but you know in the moment you can't. Mm-hmm. And so there's actually a scene of him like going back to his car and like getting in the car and then just like breaking down and fucking crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was kind of like compelling to see like, you know, grown-ass men actually being emotional and going through a thing.
Acting like a person would
acting like a person and having regret. And you think about our childhoods, and it's all like, men don't cry, men are strong, men never show their emotions.
Right.
And I was like, that's cool to see that depicted in a film. As one soft soy boy to another.
I agree. And I'll quickly interject that horror in general is great for that, because it's all about raw emotion for men and women. Anyway.
Yeah, so in some ways it kind of rehashes the first film, because at the crux of it all is that same demon from the first one's trying to get Dalton again.
Darth Maul looking one.
Yeah, Darth Maul. I think a lot of people call him the lipstick demon.
Yeah.
Where he's got the red lips. That was always his plan from the start, is Dalton's super sensitive, so I can possess him and then inhabit a human body and then store his soul away in the further locked away. And so he kind of tries to reenact that same plan, because the fact that they've forgotten everything actually makes it easier to do the whole shebang. And so one half of the film is like Dalton trying to figure out what's going on while he's at college, and this demon's trying to possess him. And then the father, Josh, is trying to piece together his memories and what's going on and like his past, because he has like issues where his father like left when he was a kid. And they kind of tie up a lot of that as far as like why they have these astral projection sensitivity things going on.
Well, in all fairness, that's a lot of people's life in college.
Family issues.
Fighting your
so yeah, it was good typical like Insidious style jump scares where they would do a lot of fake outs and fun bits like that. Good family drama story. Really pulled at the heartstrings at the end. Actually,
okay. So you would recommend it?
Got a little misty-eyed, yeah.
No.
If you've enjoyed the films at all, it will be like a great kind of.
So it is a closure. It is.
It ends the story of the Lambert family, but it does leave it open. Like the further's still there. There's still going to be malicious spirits and demons. The story could go on, just not with them anymore at this point.
Right.
And it's really great because if you have followed the plot this whole way, like 4 films, and I'm going to spoil this for you, Jason, I'm sorry, but
okay.
Elise, Lin Shaye's character, she dies in the second film.
What?
And they kind of hint and set up like her spirit's kind of going to linger to try to oversee everything and make sure it's all good. So the whole film, like you don't really see any of her other than I think it's when Dalton's like uncovering things, he finds a YouTube clip of Elise explaining what the further is and watches that, and you think like, oh, that's all it's going to be. And so at the very end, everything's resolved. They've got their happy ending. They've worked everything out. And Josh is going to leave and get in his car. And then Elise starts talking to him, and she's like there in the street, and he doesn't remember who she is. And she kind of like tells him like, yo, you know, you've got a good future ahead of you. I think your family's going to be okay. And he like thanks her, gets in the car, realizes he knew who she was, and looks back, and she's gone. Because it was like her spirit manifesting just to talk to him a final time. And I was like,
That sounds like something Lin Shaye would do.
Lin Shaye.
That's awesome.
Lin Shaye, ladies and gentlemen. She's lovely.
She's great.
So super fun. If you dig franchisee ghost things.
Okay. Nice.
Other thing I wanted to talk about is, and I was messaging you guys about this the other night, I checked out one of those direct-to-video animated Mortal Kombat movies.
All right.
Mortal Kombat Legends, the first one, Scorpion's Revenge. These, I ignored these because they came out on the heels of that new movie that was just awful. And I kind of thought these were just going to be like tie-ins for that. But they're really not. It's kind of like they just took the original plot of the first games and were kind of adapting them into animated movies. But the benefit is this is like Warner Brothers animation, so it's a lot of like the DC animated studios people kind of in the mix. So it's really good animation. It looks like the DC animated stuff, but there is some like anime flair as far as like the way they sort of chose to make the visuals and their fighting look and the combats and stuff.
Sure.
Which is cool. It like the title says, Scorpion's Revenge. It hinges it a little bit around the whole like Sub-Zero Scorpion rivalry, but it does pretty much just cover the plot of the first game or first film because that all adapting the same thing, which is they go to the island, there's the tournament, blah blah blah.
Yeah, Enter the Dragon with magic. And,
yes,
yeah.
Which is what was always fun about Mortal Kombat. But what's cool about this animated film is it's finally like done justice, I guess, to the game. Because the thing that's always held back every live-action adaptation is they can't go as far as they should with the violence and the gore and everything, right?
Even the last one could have gone further, in my opinion.
Yeah, they can't ever get there. This one spares no expense. It's rated R.
Nice.
It's the hardest R it can be. People get vivisected. You see like cross sections of people's body with the guts and the organs.
Nice.
People get like blended into pulp.
That was the fun thing about the games. It was just, wow, this is so cool.
You get to see a lot of the big like fatalities that You see Goro like rip people's arms off, and Scorpion like rips off the mask and is the skeleton and incinerates people, and
Nice.
it's all the fun elements of Mortal Kombat finally realized in a actual like feature you can watch. So I was pleased. I thought it was pretty cool. There's like 2 more, I think. I think there's one that adapts the second and third game, and then one that sort of tells some of the stories from some of the later games. So, cool if you like a little animation and you dig Mortal Kombat.
Nice.
Alright, so today we are talking about Open Your Eyes, directed by Alejandro Amenábar. Probably said that wrong, I am sorry. Also, he has writing credits on this, and I think he worked some on the score as well.
Yeah.
Multi-talented individual, which is cool. This is a listener suggestion. It came to us from Urban Groucho. Thank you, dude.
Absolutely.
I noticed a through line with this in another film that he suggested to us, which I believe we may get into as we go.
Okay, I think I may have made the same observation.
I will hit you with the synopsis.
Do it.
A once handsome playboy, Caesar, finds himself in a mental facility and he can't remember why. All he can remember is meeting the love of his life for one day, and then getting into a car accident which left his face horribly disfigured. But the pain of becoming physically undesirable may help lead him to find the truth.
Okay.
Very vague.
Yeah, it doesn't give too much away.
Doesn't even suggest that this might be sci-fi, which is interesting.
Which is good.
And that leads me to where we should start. What genre does this film classify as?
Oh, man.
Jason.
This one's got a lot of genres.
It does.
Gosh. Well, I mean, okay. There is a science fiction element, obviously. We just talked about that.
You get there.
There's almost a film noirish sort of element, too, I think.
A little like neo-noir.
Yeah. Thriller.
Definitely psychological thriller.
Yeah.
There's a lot about his mental state and what's going on.
I would also say like romance.
Yeah, I think there's a good romance plot that goes through the film.
Yeah.
So officially it's tagged as drama, mystery, sci-fi.
No, and drama, of course.
I mean, you could put drama on everything if you want to.
Everything's drama.
So yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't really have anything else to add.
No.
You hit the other ones I thought were kind of relevant.
It hits all the major genres.
Yeah.
It's like genre exposure in one movie.
So I guess, shall we just dig right into the
let's
plot?
just dig into it, yeah. Yeah, the first thing we hear is the title of the movie.
Yeah, it's a black screen, and we hear a beeping sound, and we hear someone saying, "Open your eyes." It's a woman's voice.
Yep.
It's almost kind of a hint of like a loving tone to it.
Yeah. And that's when we meet Caesar.
Yep. Played by Eduardo Noriega.
And I'll go ahead and say he's very good in the role.
He's excellent.
He is much more compelling than how I found Tom Cruise playing it.
Yes, he is the one that is replaced by Tom Cruise in Vanilla Sky, adding nothing to the formula.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
So Caesar's waking up. And he gets up and he's getting ready, and
it was his alarm clock that was.
It was his alarm clock that was going off, right? Getting his day ready. He lives in a nice place. He's a good-looking guy.
Cool, like happening loft kind of apartment.
Right. And he pulls out. He's driving the VW Bug, right? Mm-hmm. But he's driving around and he's realizing no one's out and about.
It's interesting because at first he's taking some like side streets to kind of like cut traffic.
Yeah, so you're thinking maybe they're just empty streets.
But then we get to where he's going to pull out onto a main street and the camera kind of pans up more to show you like the street stretching out. Yeah. And there's fucking nothing.
Yeah.
No people, no cars.
Reminded me of the Quiet Earth immediately.
Yep, that was the first thing. I was like, oh, okay, some Quiet Earth vibes.
Yeah. So he's checking his watch. It's like 11 o'clock or something. People should be out and about everywhere.
There's no way.
No. He's obviously getting confused, disoriented. But then, he's still sleeping. He's waking up again.
Yeah, it must have been a dream of some kind.
Right. But he's not waking up alone because there's a woman in his bed. Mm-hmm.
And he kind of accuses her of like, hey, don't leave weird messages on my alarm clock.
Right.
And you learn that was her voice saying, open your eyes.
Yeah.
And this is Nuria. Right?
Yes.
Yes. Played by Najwa Nimri.
Yes.
She has a very femme fatale vibe.
Oh, very much.
Speaking of your noir connection.
She's got that, I don't know what it's called, but it's the hairstyle she has is that pointy, Aeon Flux kind of looking thing,
I'm sure there's a term for it.
I'm sure there is.
Two dudes in a basement, so we don't know what that term is.
I have no idea. But even from her hairstyle and costume choices, she's meant to be that femme fatale type, Which is also a nice contrast to what I remember about Cameron Diaz's character from the remake. She just comes across as completely unfucking hinged. Which I think kind of undermines a lot of the story. But anyway, I can't critique that too fairly well because it's been so long since I tried watching it.
Man, Cameron Diaz, for that role?
Well, see, I never liked Cameron Diaz that much. I don't know why. Just something about her. I'm sure she's lovely, but it's just, I don't know. Okay, anyway.
There's a weird tension between the two of them, though. Clearly they're lovers, but it seems like Caesar is kind of not into her as much. And she's really into him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he starts driving off, and this time it's reality. Because there's people everywhere, traffic everywhere. Interesting, though, he's driving by at one point and he sees like a mime performing in public. Yeah. And he's got like a mask on. Note that for later.
Little setup.
Yeah. But then we get some voiceover, too. Caesar's talking to someone. Talking about how he keeps having this dream where he wakes up and no one's there.
Yeah, it was the opening scene that we saw. And then we kind of get the other chunk of what this narrative is, where he is in a prison cell.
Yes.
In some kind of psychological facility.
Yes.
And he's wearing this very disturbing rubber mask to occlude his face because he says he's disfigured.
Yeah, you don't see it at first. He's kind of crouched down in the dark. Yeah. You don't see his face.
They do a real good job with like the lighting and the shadows here to play on that.
Right. And it is weird looking because, it's almost realistic, but not quite. It's got that uncanny valley thing to it.
It made me think of, is it Hollow Man, where he tries to put the mask on?
Hollow Man,
Underrated movie. No?
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't seen it in ages. I saw it in the theater when it came out, but I never revisited. It is, which I do appreciate. The psychiatrist talking to him, his name's Antonio.
Yep, played by Chete Lara.
Who I liked a lot. He's very personable. And then he starts... They allude to him killing someone, do they not, at this point?
They claim that he's killed someone... And that the psychiatrist is there to sort of help him get some kind of defense on this, but he needs to know the full story of what happened.
Yeah, and he wants him to take off his mask, but Caesar won't.
Yeah, because he says he's disfigured, but the psychiatrist says, no, they've told me that you're...
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, so then we get some flashbacks.
Yep. And we learn that a lot of what we're seeing is really him kind of telling Antonio the events.
Right.
And this is we get some like daily life of Caesar, and we learn that he's a playboy.
Yep, he's wealthy. He's talking about his partners who we never see.
We learned that his parents ran a really popular, is it a restaurant chain? I want to say hotel chain. Yeah,
and they died in an accident, so he inherited everything.
So he's super rich. Doesn't really have to do anything.
And a lot of this we also get in a conversation with his friend Paleo. played by Felipe Martinez.
I really liked him.
Yeah, he was good.
He had a cool just vibe to him.
He had it was good casting because the guy who plays Cesar is really good looking. Mm-hmm. And Paleo is, he's like an average, normal looking person.
He's like nerdy chic or something.
Yeah. And he's talking to Cesar and how he's always scoring with women. He doesn't have sex with the same woman twice. Mm-hmm.
Which he even talks about, well, what about Nuria? I thought you were really into her. And he's just like, meh.
Yeah, he dismisses this. Who was the woman in his bed? Right? Yeah, he doesn't tell Paleo that she was in his bed.
Yeah.
He's got this, mystique to uphold. So we learn immediately that he's kind of a womanizer. That he's pretty shallow.
Mm-hmm. They go play
racquetball or something.
Yeah.
So Cesar's birthday is coming up. He's having this big party. Mm-hmm. Paleo shows up.
Which he does mention he's bringing a friend, right? Paleo's got a girl that he's into named Sophia, played by...
He laments his luck with women or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. But when he shows up with Penelope Cruz, I'm like, bro, you're doing something right.
which to keep our vanilla skyline going, curiously, she was cast again as the same person.
Yes.
Which has got to be weird.
And probably the best thing about that movie. She is just
radiant.
Luminous. Yeah, she's so beautiful and so charismatic in this. And of course, Cesar is instantly attracted to her. Mm-hmm. And like a dick moves in on her.
Yep, and it's very predatory the way he does it too, because Nuria's there as well. And he doesn't want anything to do with her.
He's trying to get away from Nuria.
And he concocts this whole plan of oh, Sophia, you have to help me. You have to kind of just hang out with me because that'll make Nuria not want to be around and she'll get mad and leave.
Yep.
And then he does this whole let's ditch into this little side room.
Mm-hmm. So then the two of them wind up in there. And of course, he's charming. Sure, he's good looking, charming, and rich.
Yeah.
What woman's not going to be a little, flattered by this and maybe interested or whatever? But it's a dick move.
It's a super dick move, especially when Pelayo comes to talk to him and he's like, hey, man, come on.
Yeah, and Pelayo's drunk at this point.
He really wants to have it out with him. He can already see what's happening.
Some of the fault is at Sophia's, too. She shouldn't be hanging out with him like that when she came with Pelayo. And that's not cool. But in her defense, she does turn him down later. His sexual advances. But anyway. Yeah, Pelayo's like, I'm going to go home.
Yeah, he's like, I'm too drunk. My head's in the wrong place.
Yeah, Sophia's like, well, I'll come with you. He's like, no, don't. Just stay here. And Cesar's like, yeah, I could take her home later. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Of course.
So he does take her home, and they hang out the rest of the night in her flat.
They have some interesting,
Why did I say flat?
I don't know. I guess it's technically a flat.
Sure. It's just, we say apartment over here. I don't know why I said flat.
I don't know if you're Jason.
Uh-oh. Reminder, kill Dustin. He knows too much.
Okay, so there's some interesting conversations in relationship building when they go back to her apartment.
Right.
Where he's kind of talking about when you look at a place, you can learn a lot about a person and the way they are and who they are and how they are.
Yeah.
And she talks a little bit about his place, and she's like, well, your place is very cold. It doesn't feel like it's actually lived in, even though it looks nice.
Yeah, and hers is kind of run down. She obviously doesn't have a lot of money like he does, but it looks comfortable. Mm-hmm. There's pictures of her everywhere. Not everywhere, but there are some pictures of her in them.
We learn she's aspiring to be an actress.
Mm-hmm.
That comes up.
Yep.
Which he's kind of dismissive of because he says he doesn't like actors because their whole job is to portray feelings that are false.
Yeah, lie, basically.
And,
which he doesn't really understand what acting is about.
Mm-hmm. Very shallow take on it.
Most actors would say it's about finding the truth, but whatever.
And there's some other funny things, she has a cat, and he's like, oh, I hate cats.
Yeah, that made me not like him even more. I'm like, fuck you, dude.
Cat's adorable, too.
Yeah, it's a great cat. I was really afraid for that cat, though, when it showed up. Anytime a cat shows up in a movie, I'm like, there's a 50% chance that cat is going to get fridged or something.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
So he starts to really kind of put the moves on her.
But she rebuffs him.
Yeah. She turns him down. She says, no, we shouldn't. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen this way.
Right. And he's watching TV at one point. She's sleeping. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, there's a commercial on about cryonics. Mm-hmm. We get this older French dude talking about his company and how they freeze people.
Yes.
And can resuscitate them in the future.
Yep. It's for people with terminal diseases for which there's no cure for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is a real fad in the 90s when you think about
Yeah, it really was.
the idea of that being a thing.
And they keep saying like Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Because, she wakes up and asks what he's watching, and that's what they talk about. So it's time for him to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he's walking away, but Narina, is that her name? Nuria pulls up behind him. Mm-hmm. She's followed them there, and she's been out there the entire time.
Awkward.
Yeah.
But she even tells her straight up, he's like, I didn't sleep with her, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But she's like, okay, well, she said she did go home with somebody too, but he didn't satisfy her. So she wants him. Mm-hmm. So he's like, no, get in the car and we'll go boink, right? At first he's like, nah, I don't think so, but I mean, that's a hard offer to pass on.
And here we learn a valuable lesson to think always with the right head.
Dude, that is so hard sometimes. Especially when you're younger and stupid. It's just, fuck, man, that's hard. It's like, hopefully, you shouldn't do this, but it's like...
If we do have any younger listeners, take heart what happens in this film in the next scene. So they're going on a little ride, and she's kind of wanting to talk about their relationship, and he's just like, whatever.
Yeah, and she's asking jackassy questions like, what do you think happiness is? And do you believe in God? And shit like that.
See, if you're driving somewhere with someone, and they ask you if you believe in God, or they ask you how long have we been friends, that's really where you got to start getting nervous.
Yeah, you got to say, could you pull over for a minute? So, she just slams on the accelerator. And
brings them over a hill.
Right off this cliff, yeah. They go down the cliff, hit like this embankment. Car gets fucked up.
Bursts into flames.
It doesn't burst into flames.
Imagine if it did, though.
It wasn't a Pinto. That would have been awesome.
It kind of made me want to like clip that scene and then make it be like her accelerating and then splice in the trauma car crash. and then splice it back out to when it's already wrecked.
That's great. So there's kind of a hard cut here almost, because we get with Cesar survived the crash, but now he's horribly disfigured.
Yes, his face is like mangled basically.
And he's having these conversations with these surgeons who are like, we've done all we can. You know, his face looks like it was kind of put back together as best they could. I'm trying to think of something like some famous makeup or something I can compare it to, because it kept reminding me of something, but I couldn't quite place it.
I really don't know. It's a very unique design, I'll say that.
Yeah, and it looks fairly realistic. You know, there are these big, deep scars and just parts where it's droopy. And
yeah, because you can tell there's like not enough. When they reconstruct it, there's not enough to like make the full feature of his face again.
Right.
But he's furious, and he's basically accusing them of like, you can do more. And they're like, we really can't. We've done everything we can do.
But they give him this mask to wear. And he's like, a mask? Fuck you. I've spent all this money to giving me a mask. And they're like, it might help. You know.
And as much as he was kind of shitty at the start, he becomes a real shit now because...
Yeah, I mean, okay. In a way, you can't help but feel sorry for him because the guy just got his face fucked up, you know. Anyone's going to elicit a little bit of sympathy. But, right, it doesn't really make him a better person. It almost makes him worse.
Right. Because I think if we're studying his character a little bit, like, so much of who he was, identity was caught up in, like, I'm this gorgeous playboy.
Yeah. Because you could have all the money in the world, at the end of the day, I mean, you still got a fucked up face, right?
And there's no real, like, there's no depth to him as a person. Like, he doesn't have, like, a hobby or, like, a talent. Or,
well, he's very good at drawing.
He is good at drawing, yeah.
But that's not really... They draw pictures of each other while he was over at her house.
You know, that's another fun thing they do, because they draw, like, what they see of each other. And he just draws, like, a beautiful portrait of her.
Yeah.
And then she draws, like, a sketch of him with, like, a fancy car and a big sack of money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just like a character type sketch. Yeah.
But my point is, he doesn't focus on that art. That's not, like, important to him, really.
Right. It's almost like he's just so cool. He's just that talented without trying.
So yeah, he's going around kind of feeling sorry for himself, and he's looking for other options, if there's any other experimental surgeries or anything he can like bring to them. But
coming up, nothing.
Seems like a dead end. He wants to get back in touch with Sophia, because again, they had that spark between them. Yep. And she's kind of avoiding him.
Yeah, he comes upon her in the park, and she's like being a mime for her acting studies and stuff like that. And she's like doing her best to ignore him.
Which is technically
What a mime does.
What a mime does.
Right, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Or can do.
Or should be doing.
Yeah.
If they're performing.
But eventually she just has to talk to him, and it's really awkward. You can tell she just doesn't want to be doing this. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to go on like nothing ever happened.
And then I think the big thing is it comes when they go out to the club, right?
Yeah. She and he and his buddy Paleo,
yeah,
all go out together. And it's very much a, like, she's with Paleo kind of situation.
It's clearly that in the interim, their relationship is advanced.
Yeah. So it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, and Paleo's trying to be good to him, at least as far as be like, oh, just chat with Sophia a little bit. And...
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to be a friend, but the guy's a real dick, Yeah. He's getting drunk, getting out of control. People won't look at him.
Yeah, he has a funny interaction with the bartender where he's like rude to the bartender at first because he thinks he's going to be weird about his face.
Well, the bartender's not looking at him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what set him off.
I mean, he's a bartender.
I've been to lots of bars where I've been to a few bars where the bartender, they're not looking at you. They don't care.
But to him, he's focused on that, so
sure,
that's how he.
It's all about him. Yeah. Although it would be hard not to be self-conscious and overreactive.
Sure. But yeah, the bartender tries to make it up to him. He's like, "Hey, man, here, take this drink on me."
Yeah.
And then we get this cut of them just like slamming drinks, back to back to back to back, and he gets sloshed.
There's a fun scene where he's puking in the toilet and he's got his mask on, but it's backward.
Yeah.
And also, like when he's dancing, you see it in profile, and it looks like Janus, the Roman god.
Yes.
So
what's relevant about that?
Well, Janus was the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. And he was represented as a man with two faces, one forward and one on the back of his head. Oh. So I do not think that this was an accident. I think this was intentional imagery on part of the director. Also, the January comes from Janus, the month.
Beginning of the year.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Very. So he's still macking on Sophia, trying to. He does this thing where he's like reenacting their first conversation where he was trying to hide from.
Anything he's done to try to talk to her hasn't worked, which he's being like weird and forceful, which is already not good.
Yeah.
That may not have worked when he was still pretty. So.
Right.
But yeah, he immediately like rushes her and like puts his arm around her and is like, "Oh, I'm hiding from Nuria." And he like beat for beat tries to repeat that again.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Just stop."
And it comes across as really creepy and desperate now. Oh, and we forgot to mention that Nuria died in the wreck.
Oh yeah. They tell that to him.
Yeah.
Which is important to know because
we don't see a body. No body, no death, right?
No body, no case. That's what I say.
So they're leaving, and she's like, "I'm going to go home." And they're like, "No, let's hang out, blah, blah, blah." And, Caesar just wants to hang out with Paleo after that, but, he's been such a dick. Paleo doesn't want to hang out.
He doesn't say it, but it's like, you can tell Paleo's like, "Man, you're too sad right now."
Yeah,
I can't do this.
Yeah, you're bumming me out. No, we're not doing this. So he's messed up, he's drunk, and he falls.
Yeah, he just collapses in the street,
Yeah, falls unconscious on the street. And there's kind of a fade to black. He wakes back up.
And Sophia's there.
Yep, Sophia's there helping him up.
And she declares her love for him. Just like flat out. She's like, after being around you again last night, I thought about it. And
yeah. And it's okay. You look this way. I love who you are. That kind of thing.
Just quite a 180 from the events of the club.
Quite.
Put a pin in that.
And even the doctors were like, "Oh, hey, we've got this new revolutionary."
Yeah, because that's the next thing is he goes home and he gets a call from them. And they're like, "Hey, it just came in. Yep. We have the answer."
Yep. And he's like, "Okay, well, yeah, let's do it." Sophia comes home that night, and he's like wearing like a plastic mask.
Yeah, it's a real cool look. The visual of that.
Yeah.
Because he was waiting for her
to
take it off. Because they don't know it's not a 100% guarantee.
Yeah. So she's taking it off, and oh man, he looks just like he did before. Gorgeous.
I like how it comes off too, where it's like in pieces.
Yeah.
You have to take like the sides off, and then eventually the top part, and then like the over the mouth.
It's almost like his psyche is fractured or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of imagery in this film.
So that's what happens when you have a good director and a good script writer. You get stuff like that.
You're just fucking throwing Tom Cruise everywhere.
Okay.
So Sophia's into him. He's got his face back.
They're hot. They're having sex.
Even Pelayo's kind of like okay with
Right.
things.
Yeah.
He just, it's weird. It's almost like he just like, our friendship's more important to me. Mm-hmm. So it's whatever.
Yeah. Everything's looking so much better for Caesar now.
Especially when they start having sex.
Well, yeah, especially. So yeah, they're having sex one night in the morning, and it's also, I think at this point too, he sees another commercial.
Yeah.
For the cryonics.
Is it Life Extensions?
Life Extension.
Is the name of the company?
And the older French dude on there.
Yeah, he made me think a little bit of like the dude from Videodrome in a way almost.
Yeah, I could see that. The Brian Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes back to bed and he's like, caressing Sophia and stuff. And she turns around, but it's not Sophia.
I like how they do this too, because it's very subtle at first, and we see that the hair is different.
Yeah, right.
Well,
she has the haircut we don't know the name of.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh shit, it's Nuria. She's not dead, but she insists that she's Sophia.
Yeah. And he flips the fuck out.
Yeah, he fucking backhands her. Like blood's everywhere. She keeps saying, "I'm Sophia. What are you talking about?"
And this movie really plays with your emotions, because at this point you're kind of like, okay, I like Caesar a little bit now, but then he fucking slaps her, and you're like, dude,
Yeah.
the fuck.
Yeah. Although that would be, I don't know. You don't know how you would
jump to that.
I'm not endorsing. I'm not Sean Connery. I'm not saying a woman needs a good smack. But I mean, seriously, if you woke up and it was this woman who tried to kill you, you would probably have a reaction of some sort. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
stumble back, grab phone, call police.
Oh, he ties her up, and he's like, "Where's Sophia? Where is she? What'd you do with her?" But eventually, he does call the police. And they're at the station, and the cop's like, what the fuck's wrong with you, dude? This woman apparently is who she says she is.
Yeah, she has the license. She has everything.
Right. So just go home.
And it's funny because he's like, well, let's go talk to her together. And they're like, we already let her go.
Yeah, we already let her go. She's the victim here. She doesn't want to press charges, he says.
Which they even say, like, they insisted that she press charges, and she was like, no.
Yeah.
I won't.
He's trying to leave. Palaio's there. And he flips the fuck out on him, saying don't ever touch her again.
Yep.
We're not friends. Stay the fuck away from me. And he shows, Palaio even shows him a picture that he took the night before. And the woman in the picture is Nuria. Mm-hmm. But he says, that's Sophia. That's what she looks like. That's who she is.
It gets into a real, like, is it him? Is it something else? They do a good job of like layering this out so you don't really know what's going on yet.
Mm-hmm. But
he goes back to Sophia.
Yes.
And she's her again, seemingly.
Right.
So they kind of reconcile. She forgives him. They kind of chalk it up to just the trauma of the accident.
Yeah.
They think it's like a subconscious thing. Like he still thinks Nuria's out there and she's going to get him.
Mm-hmm. So they start getting it on again. But during the getting on in, she turns back into Nuria.
Yeah.
I mean, like, while he's physically having sex with her. So he grabs a pillow and starts smothering her. What'd you do to Sophia? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah.
And that's when we learn the murder in question that's been hanging there.
Yep.
With the, like, which we bounced back several times to
there's
Antonio,
some back and forth,
but it's a lot of just frame stuff and him being like, I wish you would tell me everything.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
So yeah, that's why he is in jail.
Mm-hmm. And now we kind of focus more on that part too,
where
he is imprisoned.
Right.
He's working through things with Antonio.
Mm-hmm. And one night while he's hanging out around the TV room in the hospital he's at, he sees the commercial with that dude in it again.
Mm-hmm. Which notably, we should say, when he was in the nightclub.
Oh yeah, right.
That scene.
Right.
Part of whenever he was by himself brooding, the guy from the commercial's there and tries to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he just sort of blows him off.
Yeah, he tells him that he's like in a dream and he can control everyone around him.
Mm-hmm.
And Caesar's like, okay, well, I want everyone to shut up. And they do.
Yeah.
And they're all just looking at him. But also his memories, his experiences are very unreliable at this point too.
And also at that point, he's so drunk. That's like right before he goes to hurl too. So
Yeah.
But yeah, he had in one of their talks with back and forth with Antonio, he had mentioned like LE was like something significant, somehow tied to all of this, and he didn't know what that was.
He thought Ellie thought it was a woman.
Yeah, he thought it was a woman, and they're like, "Who is this other woman that's a part of the plot or what's going on?"
Right.
But when he sees that commercial and life extension, LE,
right,
LE.
So he talks Antonio into taking him to this facility.
He says, "I think if I go there
under guard
and I see everything about it, that will jog my memory.
It'll come back to me."
And yeah, he straight up puts him up to like put me out on a release thing and sign off on me and
right. So they're pretending like they're father and son, and they're interested in this cryonics thing.
And I did want to set up one other thing too. In their talks, as they've kind of become friends, going over all of this, they're talking about like happiness or something. He talks about a man that he knows that has like a wife and a daughter.
Yeah, it's like he knew a man who was completely alone and unhappy, but the next time he saw him, he had a wife and 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And Caesar even says, "That's happiness."
Yeah. And he kind of tells him, happiness can take different forms and ideas of what that is.
Yeah. So they're talking to like the salesman here at this life extension. They specialize in cryonics.
Which first they want to talk to the guy from the commercial.
But he's not there.
And they're like, "Hey, he's not here.
He's like the head honcho.
But you can talk to a representative."
Yeah. And he talks about how if you're put under, you experience these lucid, lifelike virtual reality dreams.
Yeah, but they have a whole option you can sign up for where they will it basically makes you a mental paradise where you can have this lucid dream, have complete control, and it can be whatever you want, and you can just enjoy it.
Yep.
And it's really that idea of like having a personalized afterlife in a way, almost.
Right.
And Antonio's really doubting this.
Yeah.
He just thinks like this is just hogwash. They're scamming people out of their money and their life savings because it's very expensive.
It's extremely expensive.
The kind of thing that a rich bachelor playboy could afford to indulge in.
Or Walt Disney.
So yeah, as they're going over all of this, and Antonio's kind of like, "This is hogwash. This is crazy." Caesar kind of just starts to flip out.
Yeah.
Because he knows this has to be what it is.
Yeah. And of course the guards who are like, "Dude, they already told him if you do anything fishy, we're gonna fucking shoot you."
Yeah.
So he's running around like breaking shit and yelling at everybody. And guard draws his gun. Caesar grabs his gun at one point, and they're like fighting. And he runs down to the lobby, gets away from everybody, carrying this gun.
Yep.
So everyone's like, "Oh, yeah."
It really, to be a film that's mostly up to this point been like this psychological drama kind of thing.
Yeah.
It really suddenly goes to 100 out of nowhere.
It does. And he tries leaving the building. There are cops out there. He accidentally shoots one of them. But this also kind of empowers him in a way. Because he's starting to realize that, okay, I'm dreaming. This is something, I'm making this happen. I'm in control. So he keeps shooting the guy.
And then that's when the security in the building storm out and kind of surround him.
Yeah.
And they're going to gun him down. And that's Antonio dives forward to try to protect him.
And you think that he just got shot. Antonio gets shot. And Antonio thought he got shot because they were laying on the ground.
Yeah.
And Caesar's like, "Why are you laying on me? You're heavy. Get up." And Antonio's, "I'm shot." He's like, "Wait, no, I'm not." They get up, and they're the only people there.
Yep.
There's no one else outside in that courtyard.
And it was like a crowded little city center.
Right. And they're like, "What the fuck's going on?"
And I like it because even though he's like an accessory to everything, Antonio loses his shit in this moment.
Yeah.
Like he starts to flip out.
Right.
Because there's implications about his existence now.
Yes.
If this is actually true. And it's almost like implicitly Caesar knows he needs to go up on the roof of the life extension building. And when he goes up there,
they see the old dude from the commercials. Duvenois?
Yes, played by Gerard Bure.
Yeah. And Did you get like? I mean, this movie came out after, or this movie came out before The Matrix. But did you get like Architect vibes from this guy?
Heavy Architect vibes. This is like
the Wachowskis had to have seen this, right?
This is the guy that shows up and is like, I'm
explaining everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna
to
drop
you.
everything right now. Big old plot dump on everything.
But not as.
But the way he delivers it, like it's so good.
It's more natural.
Yeah, it's more natural.
It's not as mechanical and.
It doesn't bore. It's really engaging too to like hear it
right.
laid out.
It's not as full of itself as it is in The Matrix.
But what we know is that when he passed out drunk in the streets, he woke up. He found out about the life extension thing, and he went there and signed up for it.
And then immediately kills himself with a bunch of pills.
Overdoses on pills, so he can just go ahead and get into that dream state.
Yep. So pretty much from what we've seen from the movie we saw before, after he passes out, when he wakes up, that is all artificial reality.
Mm-hmm. And he, Duvernois reveals that they are now 150 years in the future since that event where he passed out on the street.
Yep.
And that everything he's experienced, they basically, it's kind of like if you took, like, if his life was a film, they cut a strip there, and then they cut a strip later, and then, like, shortened it and connected it.
Yeah, and they're, like, splicing other things in here.
So that he never knew that he went and signed up for it.
Right.
And it just extrapolated from what he wanted, which was that he would get with Sophia, and his face would get better, and his life would be happy.
Yeah.
However, sort of the like doubts and negativities in his mind have impacted this lucid world that he's existing in, and that's kind of injected these nightmare scenarios in.
Yeah, it's like he's just torturing himself.
Maybe he deserves it
because he's a piece of shit. Yeah.
And Duvernois is really like straightforward about this, and he's like, "Hey, we're far enough in the future now that you could be woken up, and we can fix your face, and you can live life again."
And meanwhile, Antonio was freaking the fuck out.
He's trying to call his daughters. He's like, don't I have kids?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters. Oh, you're that guy you were talking about. Okay.
and
he's like, I'm real.
Yeah. And Duvernois even says, like, I'm not real. I am just like a idea that was projected into you to kind of be the control in case there was a problem.
Yeah.
That's why I tried to talk to you at the club, because I could see things were going wrong.
Yeah.
But you ran away, so
yeah,
it is what it is. But yeah, he tells him, like, hey, you got a choice. You can, now that you know this and you've conquered your fear and faced it, you can take control again, and you can have your perfect little paradise if you want it.
And Caesar's like, well, how do I wake up? And the guy, like, looks over the building. It's like, how do you usually wake up from a dream?
Little leap of faith.
Yep.
And then we get a good little, like, debate with Antonio where he's like, no, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You're just going to kill yourself. This can't be what it is. It's too out there, too crazy, too unreal.
But then Caesar kind of summons Sophia and Pleo, and
it's interesting too because Sophia says nothing during this whole thing, but she looks frightened, I would say.
Yeah. But still smoking hot.
Yeah. Which that's the look, if you find the poster for the film, it's like her in the white dress,
right,
and she's got like her arms held tightly together. So yeah, he kind of says goodbye to her, says goodbye to Pleo, tells Antonio that he was a good friend for the time they spent together.
Yep. And dives off the building. And we see him go all the way down. It switches to his POV.
Yeah.
And he goes all the way down to the street, and then it goes black. And you hear, again, like from the beginning of the movie, just open your eyes, open your eyes.
And it ends on that, which is perfect.
Yep. Oh, yeah. If it went beyond that moment, it would have been ruined. That's the time you end it.
That would be the ultimate mistake to make, is to take it any further past that.
Yep. And that is the movie, folks.
That is the film. It's a very light plot, but it's like it's very well told.
And it is.
It covers a lot of ground without like being too bloated. Or
it's also a 2-hour running time, which I mean isn't that bad, but for some movies even that can drag. But I didn't really feel that with this. I mean, the ads on Freevee didn't help.
Yeah, this is streaming on Freevee. It's basically a Tubi-like platform with a worse selection, but because it's a different set of rights, there are these little gems like this film.
Sure.
That you can only get there, so
it's worth putting up commercials for, especially when it's free. Hell,
yeah, and they were never too invasive. I thought.
No, were your subtitles weird? Because Sophia was Sofa.
Yeah, and then for Caesar it was like CSAR.
Yeah,
they cut out. I don't know
like
if they
Czar
had,
or something.
They had trouble with like the accented characters or something.
It could have been that. Yeah,
strange. So I'll rattle off a bunch of notes I have.
Do it.
The director, Amenábar, imagined this script after having horrible nightmares while he was ill with the flu. Like real bad. Like,
yeah.
Could have died maybe bad.
It's like James Cameron in Terminator.
Yeah. Or Lucio Fulci and his fever dreams that spawned...
The Beyond?
Crap, what the fuck is that movie called? Devil's Honey. There we go. Yeah, Devil's Honey.
I was way off. Okay.
Isn't that the story on that one? Is that he had like weird fever from like an STD or something? And
yeah, that makes more
dreamed
sense.
up that movie.
Jesus.
Jeez. There's a song that plays in the nightclub when they first walk in, and it's Rising Sun by Massive Attack. And one line in that song that's repeated frequently is Dream On. So that's one, again, like you were talking about, there's some subtle work put in this to kind of lay things down. That's another one of those examples.
And I'm really glad they didn't use the Aerosmith song, Dream On.
God.
I fucking hate Aerosmith.
Yeah, good call. Whenever he first goes to Sophia's apartment, and he's like tearing the photos off her wall and like commenting on them.
Because he sees this Aldmeria in the pictures.
One of them is a picture of the Sandman, the popular Neil Gaiman comic, which, if you know anything about that, has everything to do with the world of dreams.
Sure does.
That's another one of those little subtle hints.
Yep.
What else do I have here? Totally irrelevant, but I guess I'll throw it in. Tom Cruise said that when he saw Open Your Eyes, he whipped out his mobile phone and was trying to buy the remake rights as the credits were scrolling.
Yeah.
Because he knew he had to get it.
Yeah.
And he did.
I'll give him credit. I mean, he's a savvy businessman. He knows something good when he sees it.
That was like what Michael said about him, is that he knows how to surround himself with the right people.
Right. Oh, definitely. Definitely. He's very good at that.
That is very true.
He didn't have the depth for this character.
The Online Film Critics Society put out a list of the top 100 sci-fi films of all time ever, and Open Your Eyes made that list. It was number 84. That's a little acclaim for him. It was nominated for a lot of awards, but it didn't really win anything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was unfortunate. Amenábar in 2016 spoke about the film in a retrospective, and he said that to him, Open Your Eyes was his worst film. And of it, he said it had been written by teenagers who didn't know anything about life at that time.
Huh.
Which I find
I can't agree with. He's being very dismissive, because I think this will affect you no matter what age you are, you know?
I think it's like very, very well conceived, very well told, very well constructed. But the budget was 370 million pesetas. Is that how you say that?
I think so.
Sure. I couldn't find a lot of like a conversion to convert that in 1997 dollars, but if you converted that now, it would be roughly shy of 2.5 million.
You could probably divide that by 3, and that's what it would be. It was probably like under $1 billion.
Which, I mean, it looks great. So, in Spain, this film was the second highest grossing Spanish film of the year, behind Torrente. In the United States, it grossed $370,000, roughly. I think overall, worldwide, it was like 0.7 million or so. What else do I want to say?
He wrote The Others.
Did he?
That's what it says right here.
That's a wonderful film.
You know, I don't like that one.
Oh, I do.
Okay. I like the atmosphere.
Oh, I have my notes, little notes about Vanilla Sky, just to wrap up on that.
Okay.
So it shifts us to New York instead of Madrid. That's one thing, of course. It pretty much sticks to the plot of Open Your Eyes.
He directed The Others. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit.
Sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, hey, I think The Others is great, so.
Okay.
Take that with
We can talk about that in a second.
Take what you will. No, but Vanilla Sky, it follows this plot very closely, which is surprising for an American remake. Where I noticed it really kind of goes off the rails is at the end. That's where it very much diverges. Because instead of this whole, like, it's a lucid dream and it was his mentality that brought in the nightmares, it's a glitch in the system.
Right.
And the character that is the Duvernois, he is sort of like a system administrator.
The architect.
that oversees everything. And he tells them, like, hey, we've corrected the glitch. You can have your paradise now, but since we had this trouble and I had to intervene, you get the choice if you want to wake up or not, because they could fix you now.
So it has nothing to do with his own subconscious.
And I hate that, because it really blunts down, like, the point in a way.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing of the other way is it's like, well, now he's like the master of his reality, and the whole reason it was shitty was because internally, at some level, he had like regrets and fears with everything, and that like fed into itself,
right,
and created the nightmare.
Which is kind of one of the things that happens in dreams. You know, your brain is sucking through all this shit, and you're compressing and going through subconscious thoughts. It makes perfect sense.
So I think that's a typical American thing, is they lose the nuance, right? Like if you
Every
look at
time. Like the remake of The Vanishing. Oh, Jesus.
God, yeah. Or like Ringu to Ring, like it loses some of the magic and the poignancy of the original.
Right.
When you transfer it.
Here's this great, wonderful movie I like a lot. Let's change it.
Let's make it worse. So I think that's the only like fun things I have.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't like the others?
He did the others right after this. Yeah, I think because I knew what was coming. Like, I knew what the plot was going to be in the first act. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm so smart. It just seemed the logical progression of what I was seeing. It just seemed the only way that this movie was going to end.
Well, I mean, it's not the first film to do that kind of plot. But
right. But
I think it's executed well.
It didn't work for me. I wish he had done an adaptation of Turn of the Screw, because it had a very kind of Turn of the Screw atmosphere.
Definitely inspired by that, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
It was definitely a good-looking movie. I'll give it that.
There's one little other side path I want to go down.
Yeah.
I thought it would be good to bring up the novel Ubik by Philip K. Dick from 1969.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Cool. So, in general, since this has been the sci-fi block, Philip K. Dick is one of those big, iconic, like masters of science fiction.
Yep. Blade Runner is based on one of his books.
Blade Runner is one of his. I know we hit on some other people like Heinlein and Asimov, so good to give him a little time to shine. So, Ubik, though, the story is set in a future 1992 where psychic powers get used in corporate espionage, and they have a big focus on cryonic technology that lets deceased people be frozen and brought back. And it follows this main character named Joe Chip, who's a technician at a psychic agency, who starts to have these strange, like, alterations in reality. And there's this substance that you can buy called Ubik that kind of, like, settles that for him and makes everything seem normal and fine. And I really think this has to have been an inspiration on Open Your Eyes.
Yeah, I would say so. Where's that movie of that novel?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing. Over the years, there's been many attempts to adapt it into a film, even as recently as 2011. But to date, it's always been a failed...
Falling apart.
Yeah, it's always fallen apart at some point.
That sounds cool. Sounds very ahead of its time.
And I don't want to spoil too much of the plot, but if you've experienced Open Your Eyes with us, it's kind of in that vein where at the end there's very much a which reality is real, which is not. Kind of
like Total Recall.
So yeah, so to run it down for Philip K. Dick, if you're going to know him for things, Blade Runner, as you said, Total Recall, Minority Report, A Scanner Darkly.
That's a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, fuck. Something about him and Philip K. Dick, I guess. See, A Scanner Darkly, Radio Free, Albemuth, and then there was the TV series adaptation of Man in the High Castle.
Oh, I never saw that.
It was all right. I never finished it.
Yeah. I actually haven't read a lot of Dick. I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. That's the only one I ever read.
He's a weird guy. And I wanted to bring this up, too, just since we're talking about Philip K. Dick. Here's my weird like side path you can go down for extra credit if you want. I love to bring up weird paranormal topics. And so I have to ask you, Jason, did you know Philip K. Dick had his own series of weird mystical experiences?
No.
Where he received downloaded information from a higher intelligence.
What?
Yep.
Kind of like Willie Straber and his alien abductions?
Yeah, a lot less butt play in this, though. So,
hey, man. Those aliens love rectums.
But he said he experienced what's this Greek term called anamnesis, which is the loss of forgetfulness, or AKA the remembrance of knowledge you had from existence but had forgotten in birth. He made a long series of journal entries all about this and chronicling everything, and those have been published in a book called The Exegesis of Philip K. Dick.
Weird.
And so, yeah, he had all these weird visions, and he would see these abstract patterns, and he would experience, like, past lives and go through. There's one that's this whole thing about, like, he wakes up and he's in, like, the time of Jesus's crucifixion, and he's, like, one of the people just living in the city. And It's very like vivid, detailed experiences of all of that. And he said that there was this like higher being, and he used different names like God or Zebra, or the one he used the most was Vast Active Living Intelligence System, or Valis, which is a novel that he later wrote that kind of took a lot of the ideas from his experiences and couched it in a science fiction story.
That's crazy. I never heard that.
But he said there was this pink beam of light that would like and like zap into him, and it would just like flood his mind with information and knowledge.
Wow.
And he like madly would write all of this down to share for people.
Okay.
He would stay up late into the night writing these, and sometimes he would write 150 pages in one sitting. And all told, it was something like 8,000 pages, of which only a slight portion was kind of amalgamated and published as a book you can read.
Weird.
But these experiences bled into a lot of his later works, like Valis, Radio Free, Albemuth. I want to say there's one more book he wrote that kind of leaned into a lot of these ideas too. I don't know. It's a totally weird, totally unrelated to this film.
Yeah. Interesting
and crazy, and not enough people talk about it. I think.
Yeah,
so I want to put it out there.
Yeah. Huh, cool.
Go look up the exegesis of Philip K. Dick.
Nice. Well, what did you think of Open Your Eyes?
I loved it quite a bit, to be honest. This is definitely a mindfuck movie. I love mindfuck movies.
Yeah.
You don't know,
but it also it's
real.
not obnoxious about it, which I really like.
I know that's a hang up for you in a lot of these.
It really is.
But because of that, it sits in line with a lot of other films I really, really love that I just hold up as like some of my favorites of all times. Those ones where it's like it couched and you've got these two realities. They exist side by side. There's usually some overlap or similarities between them. But there's always that question of which, if either is real, and does that matter? Or, what's the deal? And I know you didn't care for our prior film, Avalon, but that technically also sits in this realm.
A little.
I hope everyone enjoyed that I put some gameplay of Call of Duty into the show notes on that one. just so you could see people running in the same area shooting guns.
I guess you were right. That's the game.
But no, of course I think of David Lynch leans into a lot of this.
Yeah.
Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, all three of those chain into that same thing. Of course, Nolan is all the rage right now with Oppenheimer, but we can't forget Inception. That also leaned into those questions and ideas as well. And even if you go backwards to like older films, one that I thought of, and I think also the director put in a reference to, is Hitchcock's Vertigo.
Okay.
Because he gets into that question of like what's real,
what's reality,
reality, and what's not, and is this a trick or is this the real deal? And in those final moments of Open Your Eyes, when Caesar steps up on the ledge of the building, he turns to Duvernois and he says, "Oh, I forgot, I suffer from vertigo." And he kind of is shaky a little bit. And I wondered if that was a little nod of acknowledgement, because that's the same thing in that one. He's obsessed with that woman.
Could be.
And is it her? Is it this other woman?
Yeah, because the director also has a cameo in the club. He's one of the patrons. He's in the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a very Hitchcockian thing to do.
Right, so you're probably right.
Yeah, so I mean, I loved it start to finish. I thought it leaned on so many big ideas, cool ideas. I liked that Caesar was such an imperfect character, and like you do kind of hate him, and he is really shitty, but then there is still something likable about him, and that's a real props to the actor, I think, to bring that out.
Yeah.
Because in the wrong hands, it would just...
Like Tom Cruise's.
In Tom Cruise's hands, it would just be like, nah, fuck this guy. And Penelope Cruz is gorgeous, we know that, and she really goes through a good range, I think, in this film of like emotion. And,
yeah, I mean, she's a good actress too. We should note that she is very good.
Underrated. She needs to have
been
in more.
I can't think of that much that she's been in that I've seen, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like start to finish, I loved everything about it. I loved the ideas. Loved the execution. I liked how long they teased up to the sci-fi elements.
Right.
You get that seed of the commercial, but the way they play it, like, you have no reason to suspect that's anything.
Yeah.
At the start.
Right.
So they really, like, naturally lead you into that, and then the twist of what's going on. I love a good, well-executed twist like that.
I agree.
And then again, the ending, they fucking nailed it. That's exactly where you needed to stop it.
Yeah.
To show us any more in any way.
Yeah. Would have ruined it.
Would have been a crime. And that's where I want to go back to a prior film we've covered that also is in this vein.
I guess.
Yes.
Come True?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is also recommended to us by Groucho.
Yeah, I got vibes from that too.
Big vibes on that, and it made me reflect on my feelings about Come True. Because you remember how pissed I was when I first watched it at the ending.
Yeah.
And I did cool down about that. And so here it made me think, like, why did this feel different? Why did this?
Okay. This worked for you, but Come True didn't exactly land for you. Yeah.
Though I do like Come True a lot more now
It's
that
so
I sat with it. But
good.
I think it's because in Open Your Eyes, it like breathes a little bit with that final revelation.
Yeah.
Because he mulls it over. He has the back and forth with Antonio. And it was the fact that Come True is like she gets the text and then that's it. And
she also has vampire teeth, which is pretty fucking awesome.
it's a great final shot too, but I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I get you.
Interesting food for thought. So all that said, though, I actually gave this a 5-star because I had no complaints to bring forward to the table.
Wow, 5 stars.
I think it's super underrated. I think it should be like really held in there in the pinnacle of science fiction films. I think it's super influential. I mean, it's not the first one to do this, but I think it does it in such an interesting way that then what it did has bled into other films. Like you were talking about, like The Architect.
Yeah.
That's totally that final moment of this film.
Yeah. I would be shocked if Wachowskis hadn't seen this.
So what did you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot too. I liked it a lot. I don't think I would give it 5 stars, but I did really
give
like
stuff
it.
5 stars.
I really do. But watching it, I got kind of Jacob's Ladder vibes.
That's another good comparison to bring up, yeah.
Which did come out before this. But one thing I want to talk about before I forget it real quick is that I think Cruise probably did a disservice to this movie doing the remake so quickly because people don't get a chance. It doesn't do anything for this movie.
Right. It just buries this one.
Because I think this came out after Vanilla Sky in the States. They released it on video, and it was like, oh, remade as Vanilla Sky on the cover. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that.
Which that's a lot like the J-horror boom. All of those, you would get the DVD.
Yeah, this is the one it's based on. So if you didn't like Vanilla Sky, you're not going to check this out.
Yeah, why would you?
Which is a huge disservice to this movie.
Absolutely.
It is unfairly forgotten. It should be a little bit more popular because it came out in 97, and there weren't a whole lot of mindfuckery movies.
What else was going on in 97? I mean, come on.
I mean, I think now, and the movie does a really good job of intelligently dropping little cues, like the cryonics commercials, him talking about his dreams, things like that, where the ending, the twist isn't like a big out of nowhere moment. You know, it's earned. You know, if you're paying attention, you pick up on these things.
Yeah, when they started dropping everything, I was like, oh.
Yeah, right.
It really, like, it engaged you because you had seen all those beats, and then now it was, like, threading them for you.
Yeah, and it wasn't hitting you over the head with it. If you're looking for it, you're probably going to see it and figure it out before he does. But I think that if you went into this movie not knowing anything about it, like if it didn't have that sci-fi tag on it.
You just thought it was like a romantic drama or something.
Yeah, you would never think, your mind wouldn't go there, you know.
There's no reason to suspect it.
Yeah, right. It's a well-made movie. It's well shot. It's well acted. All the actors bring it.
Every single actor like killed it.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, I don't really have a fault with it.
You just don't think it's a 5.
I just don't think it's a 5, and I'm not sure why.
That's fair.
It's one of those things I just can't. You know, a 5 is reserved for. You know.
You do your way, I do my way.
Yeah, cool. Sure, I get it.
It's always free swim here at Genre Exposure.
Penelope Cruz gets at least a star by herself, you know, so that's a given. I would give it 4 stars.
Nice.
At the end of the day, so I think it's a very good movie. Not quite a classic, but very good. And if you hadn't seen it, especially if you saw Vanilla Sky and got turned off by that, go back and watch the original.
Yes.
Anytime there's a remake, I always say go watch the original. Sometimes remakes are better.
Can happen.
Rarely. But typically they're not. Because whatever was good and original about the original film, they fuck up in the remake. Because it's American studios.
I say that all the time with like adaptations of stuff. Like there was something about that made it compelling.
Yeah. Let's ruin it.
For you to want to remake it. So why don't you keep that part?
But no, we got to make it palatable for everyone. So we got to take that uniqueness out and make it factory.
It's sad. But I mean, hey, this is on Freevee. Anyone can get at it.
Yeah.
You owe it to yourself to check it out if you've never seen it, I think.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, well.
That wraps up our sci-fi block, doesn't it?
Yes. We are done with sci-fi for the time being. Of course, I'm sure we will come back I personally would really like to just do a whole thing on cyberpunk at some point. But
there's probably enough movies to have a good range from that. There's not as much cyberpunk out there as you think there should be.
The thing is it's kind of dead in a way because the future, we already have reached that future and it's not what we thought it was going to be.
I don't know.
Oh, but there's still plenty of evil corporations, so the spirit lives on.
I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Wait till there's only 3 corporations left and everyone is just continually jacked into some virtual reality. Then we'll be there.
It's Amazon.
We're not that far away. Yeah, it'll be Amazon, Disney, and Apple.
Yeah, probably.
So
So
we have a new block coming up.
we do have a new block, and it's my turn to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Let me walk you through my thought process.
Okay.
Here we are. It's the summer. It's hot.
It sure
It's
is.
real hot.
It's record temperatures
Record
all around
temperatures.
the world.
Got up to like 100 here today. It's humid and sticky.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Kind of gross.
Kind of gross. But it's also the summer, right? You think of summer, you think summer love, summer romance,
Oh, so we're doing like camp movies or something?
summer love and having a blast.
Yeah, like
right.
teen camp movies?
And I've been thinking too, like I want to go back to pink films,
Oh, okay.
right? So let's just thread all this together, and it is the summer, and it is hot, and it is nasty.
Yeah.
So it's time to talk about some pink films, but I felt like when we did Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wasteland,
Yeah.
we really covered like the basis of pink films so well there
Sure.
that it's not worth it to go back and hash that part out again.
Okay.
So I thought, let's take a slice from that big pie to drill in on.
Big pinku pie.
Let's just dig into the pinku pie and take a slice to subject our poor listeners to. And I thought it would be fitting. So if you listen to that episode, you know that technically pink films are the indie production, but that the big studios had their own response
As always.
that are all stylistically similar, but technically, quote unquote, aren't pink films, but are kind of talked about in the same circle because they're basically the same kind of films. So I thought, let's focus on Nikatsu's Roman porno series.
Okay. Specifically, Nakatsu Roman Porno.
Yes.
Which
So-
stands for romantic pornography.
Yes. And this was their stab at doing the studio formula for pink films.
Okay.
Little less adventurous compared to Inflatable Sex Doll as far as the surrealness and the
Yeah.
art house, and
Right.
a little more formulaic. You know, that's where they got into the things of having the rules of like, you know, every so many minutes you got to have a bit of nudity or a sex scene or
Sure.
but yet still within that format, people thrived and did interesting things. So that's our focus for the next block.
Okay.
And I am kicking us off with a film from 1979, Zoom Up Murder Site, directed by Koyu Ohara.
Zoom Up Murder Site.
Yes. Now, this was the first entry in one of several sub-series that they had in this label, known as the Zoom Up series. You're going to quickly learn what that is as you see the film. They do a lot of camera zooms. That's the whole gimmick to it.
Oh, because like a Hess Franco movie. All right.
A bit like that, yes. I thought I would give a little context on this since it is the unexplored territory probably for most listeners, but let me hit you with the synopsis for this film.
Okay.
I picked this one specifically because I think there's that whole thing of like, I don't know if I want to watch these weird kind of adult films or whatever, and I don't know how to branch into that. This film in particular, like it's couched a lot as a horror film, so I think if you're a horror person, that's kind of like a through line on this one. You can like ride on
Okay.
to get there, and it's something familiar in a way. So, a violent killer is preying on women and dumping their bodies in an abandoned building. Tomoko cheats on her lover with another man and thinks the killer saw their romantic tryst while committing a murder. She doesn't want to go to the police because she's afraid her affair will be discovered, but the killer continues his murderous spree. What will Tomoko do to hide her torrid secret? Can she escape the hands of the murderer?
Okay. All right.
So we've got a black glove killer, we've got murders going on,
A little giallo-ish.
and we've got a bored housewife having an affair that gets caught up in the mix.
Now, what year did this come out?
1979.
What's the name of it again?
So there's a little confusion with the name. We'll talk about that in the next episode, but for the
Okay.
time being, we were referring to it as Zoom Up Murder Site. If you wanted to go buy the Blu-ray that exists, that's what you would search for.
Okay.
Because reasons that we will get into next time. I thought I would like kind of hype it up a bit by sharing this quote. This was from the Japanese Cinema Encyclopedia by Thomas and Yuko Mihara Weiser.
Oh, yeah. I got a couple other books.
And I think this is just a great way to tease this film. So they describe Zoom Up Murder Site as a collection of staggeringly repulsive murders, perhaps the most sadistic ever generated in film. The words misogynist and mean-spirited can barely describe the atrocities that you will see at hand.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sounds fun.
Buckle the fuck up.
Now, are your average viewers going to be able to catch this somewhere? Is this streaming somewhere?
God damn it, Jason. Hold on. This isn't streaming anywhere, unfortunately. There is both a DVD and a Blu-ray that is available by... We should also set this up from the start. Synapse Films has a side imprint called Impulse Pictures, which is sort of their adult label. And they have several sub-imprints in that. One, I think, the popular one's the 42nd Street Forever or something.
Yeah, a bunch of trailers.
Which is a lot of that kind of stuff. But they have a whole other thing that's just called the Nakatsu Collection, which is they licensed a ton of these Roman pornos and have been releasing them. And most of them are DVD because that's the only quality print they ever had to work with. Mm-hmm. So there's no point in doing a Blu-ray. But a few they have had the materials to actually do a Blu-ray release, of which this film will have one. So if you want to get it, you're going to have to either track that release down and pick it up, or...
It's on Amazon for $17 or $18 right now.
Or, do your internet thing, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, the cover is interesting.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Weird territories, as we know. And as we always say, go with yourself, go with your comfort zone.
Yeah, know your limits.
If you're like, I don't want to get into any of these, that's cool, dude. Just tune in and listen to us banter at the start about some movies we watched, and then go about your business.
Bitching about some new trailer or something.
Or, bitching about whatever trailer came out, or if you just say, I want to take off like a month or two from the show and come back when you're back on something else. I assure you that when we finish this, I believe it'll be very close to October, so you know where we're going to be going after that.
That's right. It's the holy season.
So, yes, next time, Nakatsu Roman Pornos, kicking it off with Zoom Up Murder Site. Now, I don't know the whole social media game on this. I think that putting the word porno and stuff is like a no-no. So I'm going to play with that and see what happens. I might have to start just saying the Nakatsu Collection, which is how they've marketed their releases. But we'll see how much trouble I get in on X.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. I'll play around with that.
You won't want to get in trouble on X or anything.
No. So all that said, we've reached the end of our show. You know what's coming up next. Buckle up for that. You can hit us up on all the social medias of your preference. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on X.
Whatever.
Why?
What the fuck?
Why did they do it? I woke up today and my app had changed on my phone to X. And I kept getting notifications all day from X. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, oh, wait, that's Twitter. Like you make short messages and they're a tweet. And it's a Twitter for your tweets.
You buy something with a brand name that billions of people fucking use. And then you just... get rid of that.
My favorite thing, and I guess I'll share this on air so I can link people to it as well. They want to call it regionally. So if it's like in France, it's like X France, right?
Sure.
So for Japan, that makes it be X Japan. Except there's a very famous rock group from Japan called X Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is making all kinds of weird conflicts of I'm sure, licensing and marketing and everything else.
Yeah, it's almost like you didn't think about it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But they're a good band, and I'll toss a song in our show notes.
Nice.
Even though it's irrelevant and everything else. So all that said, send us your thoughts about Open Your Eyes. Have you ever seen it? How do you think it stacks up to Vanilla Sky if you've seen that? Send us your sci-fi picks that you think we should check out down the road. So of course we couldn't hit everything.
No.
We always love listener suggestions. Keep tossing them in, bringing them to us. If we cover your film, we will mail you a super cool genre exposure sticker. Free of charge. Just need some kind of mailing address, which we'll be in touch if that's the case.
Absolutely. Hey, you know you want it.
You know you want it. It's super cool. We definitely won't show up at your house with spookies.
Unless you want us to.
Spookies and X.
It's not a threat, it's a promise.
You have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.